What's going on, everyone? Welcome into GDT Live, presented by the Game Day Tarps podcast. It's Friday. I don't have my lights on. Colton, I'm also feeling like a little bit of an idiot because I just went outside. I told you I'd tell you on the air why I feel a little stupid here. But I went to go open a pack of ribs earlier, right? And throw them in the oven and make some ribs for lunch. But I was like, you know what? I'll save them for supper. But I'll de-thaw them, right? And me being me, put them outside on a baking sheet. I was going to leave them out there for like half an hour or so. I just went outside like a couple minutes ago. I found them sitting there, very, very much de-thawed or thawed out, almost maybe cooked. I screwed that one up big time. Screwed the pooch there. But how you doing? Happy Friday.
Oh, we're muted double time. That'll happen. Civilian moment. I didn't realize I was double muted. I muted my mic and then I also muted it through my computer. So my bad. I don't even want to chirp you now because of that, because I just went double muted and fucked myself all up there. So happy Friday, everybody. We're off to a great start.
Yes, sir. Happy
Friday. Hey, I got an article I want to read to you. It's from Scott Maxwell at Daily Faceoff. It's 5 NHL players in danger of regression in the 2025-2026 season. I thought it was an interesting article. So I'll just list off the player names and we can kind of talk about it after. But Darcy Kemper, Connor McMichael, Anthony Stolarz are 3 names that are up there. And then he's actually got listed Pierre-Luc Dubois, Morgan Geekie, Vladislav Nemesnikov, JJ Peterka, and Alexei Protas.
So what he's saying is 5 players that are possibly going to have much worse seasons statistically than last year. Maybe that's it's hard to say. The one that kind of sparked my mind there was Connor McMichael. Like last year, and Protas, I guess there was 7 caps along with Logan Thompson that were having career years last year. I don't know. I think that also might have went into the Ovi effect. Everyone was on that train trying to get Ovi, like trying to get points for Ovi, win games, make it to the playoffs again, which they did. But that might have something to do with it. But to say that these players might be like, I don't know, it might be a hot take, might not be, but I guess we'll see how they do. What about Kemper? That was the first one, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one, right? Because like he's the goaltender, he's the one that's won a Stanley Cup, right? And I think with Kemper, it's just like you got to watch him. But the guy that I'm really intrigued by is Peterka. Like he's going to Utah. Like what type of role is he going to have there? Obviously, it's going to be a top 6 role, but how are they going to deploy him in that sense? Will he be a first line power play guy? Will he play second line power play? Like he's going to be on one of those units. But I'm interested why Peterka is on that list and why he thinks that it could be a regress year for him. Just maybe from my outside perspective of it was maybe it's just like the change of scenery. Maybe he doesn't click well with Utah teammates, or maybe that's what Scott's reasoning is behind that one. But I actually peg Peterka to be a breakout candidate this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to I would say a better team in Utah.
Yeah.
Top 6 minutes is what I would expect from Peterka. I don't see how you could play him in any other role. I don't know. It's hard to say. He could it could be the fact that it's a new change of scenery and he might not fit in, but I think he's going to do just fine.
Yeah, he's coming off of 225 plus goal seasons, right? Like 20, I think it was 27 and 28 goals he's scored in the last 2 years. So like he can eclipse that 30 mark this year with Utah pretty easily, I feel like. But what about Morgan Geekie? That's a guy that kind of shot up, last season, had a big year. I mean, for him to be listed there, I'm interested because, he is a player that I think can have a big year, but we'll see, right?
Yeah, Geeky was someone that kind of I was always interested in the way he played. He had to change his play style from Seattle to Boston for sure, but I think it's something that fit him really well, and I think he could be in for another good season. I don't think regression would be anything that he would have to worry about. Maybe with the loss of a couple guys on the roster with the Bruins, they're not going to be doing as well, but I think Morgan Geeky's going to be doing just fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if anybody proves that list wrong, it's going to be Peterka or Geeky. Protas as well, but I feel like Protas is going to have a big year as well, and he'll easily just slide out of that conversation. But I think Peterka is in for a big year.
Yeah, definitely. Peterka, like we said, one of those guys. He came from Buffalo. He's going to a better team, and that's the biggest thing that I'm looking at. There's more guys around him that are offensively capable, and I think Peterka is going to, like you said, kind of have a breakout season, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Bob McElligott, sorry, waiting for us backstage. How do we want to quickly do an ad read and then bring him on?
Yeah, sure. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, everyone, feel your grind with Quench Hydration, zero sugar, bold flavor, and real results. Get 15% off your first order at quenchhydration.com with code GameDayTarps. Again, that is your first order of 15% off at quenchhydration.com with code GameDayTarps. Let's bring.
Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Good, guys. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Let's start with the off season and let's start with the draft. Really, we had Jackson Smith on our show about a month ago, and he was awesome. What do you make of Jackson Smith's selection to Columbus?
Yeah, I like it. It's another big defenseman, which is something Don Waddell really started adding last year in the draft. He continues that with Jackson Smith. He played well in junior, and now he's going to go to Penn State and really get a taste of the college hockey world. When you talk to him, you're right in what you said. You like him. He's just a really likable guy as a person. So, I told him in an interview, I said, "You seem like the kind of guy that can walk into a room full of strangers and walk out with a room full of friends, and that's good. I mean, that's good in life, but that's going to be good for him as a hockey player as well. He's got to back it up with his play, but based on what he's already done and what I think he'll do in the NCAA, I think he'll do just that."
You guys also drafted Pyotr Andreanov. Now, obviously, that's a project goaltender as he's 5 years away from even stepping foot in North America, it seems like. But what do you make of bringing in an elite young goaltender?
Well, this is an organization that needs to address that position anyway, right? And last year they traded back into the end of the second round to get Evan Gardner, and they have high hopes for him, obviously. But this is the guy they really liked. I talked to our scouts, the guys that watched him on video, the guys that went to the combine in Florida to see him before the draft, and they really really like him, and they think that they've really got something with him. And the fact that he can't come over for 5 years is fine. He's 18 years old, so he'll play 5 years in the KHL, and he will not be the first Russian goaltender to come over and be NHL ready. I'll tell you that. So they're not concerned about that, and they just hope that he develops the way that he has been because, as I said, they really like him.
One more rookie that I just kind of wanted to touch on as we'll move on to the offseason stuff here. But Caden Lindstrom, he's now going to leave the WHL. He's going to go play at Michigan State. I had the chance to watch him over the last couple seasons. Obviously, very limited action, of course, with his injuries. But what is the kind of the rule of thumb with him right now? Are you guys hoping that he goes into Michigan and just kind of plays a full, steady schedule, or is there hope that you can kind of wean him back into stuff due to his injury?
Well, I think they kind of did that during the playoffs in the WHL last year, right? They got him back out and got him into games. He winds up going to the Memorial Cup, and he got to play some games. First time in over a year that he got to play some games. So they were tentative with him then. I think this summer of training, and then the NCAA, and I think this is part of the appeal to Caden Lindstrom is you're basically playing on the weekends, and there's going to be a lot more time where you can train, and there's going to be a lot more time when you can recover and all those things, and that's going to be important for him. And also, he's going to get to play against some older guys and really have his competition level tested a little bit more. So I think the college schedule will be good for him. I think the college life will be good for him. You see it a lot. A lot of guys are leaving junior and they're going to try the NCAA. Is it going to work for everybody? Probably not. Or will there be guys that matriculate back to junior? Maybe that very well could be. But I think, right now for a guy like Caden, he's a big guy. He's had those injury problems. He did come back. The organization's not going to go to Michigan State and say, hey, you know, treat this guy, really gingerly here. They're going to let him play. He's got to play. Look, if he's going to turn pro, if he has a good season, he's going to turn pro, and he's going to be tested night in and night out. So there won't be any restrictions on Caden.
Bob, looking down the middle, obviously, probably the biggest offseason acquisition would be Charlie Coyle in my mind. How does he kind of fill out that center role in Columbus?
No, I think he's going to fill it out really well. As a matter of fact, the bigger question is Cole Sillinger going to continue to play center on this team because of Charlie coming in? And not only Charlie, but Isaac Lundestrom was picked up as a free agent from the Anaheim Ducks. If you look at it on paper, I'm not the coach, but it's very easy to look at and say, look, Charlie Coyle can be your third line center and Lundestrom can be your fourth line center. So where does that leave Cole Sillinger? That leaves him to play on the wing, which he's done. And that's fine. Or he could maintain one of those center positions. That's what training camp is going to be about. But I think for Charlie, it was really important. They wanted a right-handed shot centerman. They wanted a veteran presence, and they wanted a guy who can play on the penalty kill and really play in all situations. And Charlie's the kind of guy that can move him up and down in the lineup if they have to or if they want to. So, but that was the biggest thing, the right-handed shot and winning faceoffs. This team really has struggled in the faceoff department for years, quite frankly. And when you're on the penalty kill and you're losing faceoffs, I don't have to tell you guys how difficult that becomes really quickly. So I think Charlie's going to fit in really well here because of the attributes that he has and the way they've sized up how he can help this team.
Another guy that was brought in to Miles Wood. What do you make of that addition?
Well, you know what? This team wants the forecheck. And Miles Wood does it pretty well when he's healthy, right? I remember him in the Eastern Conference when he was in New Jersey because we used to see him 4 times a year and, flying around, throwing the body, all of those things. That sets up well for the system that Dean Evison likes to play here. So, again, on paper, it fits. I know he had injury problems in Colorado there. So, he's got to be healthy for it to all work out. But I do think, again, there's thought put into these moves, guys. Obviously, every team's thinking. But in these cases, they went through and tried to find where the deficiencies were, where they thought they could be better in the bottom six and address it. And I think the two guys they got with the past of what they've done in this league seems that they will be a good fit to address those shortcomings.
What's kind of the mood for the Jackets right now and the management heading into this season? Have they done enough to address the roster? What's kind of the mood right now?
I don't know if they've done enough. And I feel that they've done what they could. There were a lot of things Don Waddell wanted to do, and there were other general managers that wanted to do things, and then it didn't happen. You guys saw how many players ended up re-signing with their own teams. It'd be really easy to say, boy, if you could get a top pair right shot defenseman and sign him to play with Zach Werenski, and you could re-sign Dante Fabro and put him on the second pair, boy, that would really make it strong. It just didn't work out that way. I mean, Aaron Ekblad re-signs with the Florida Panthers. Rasmus Anderson was another guy whose name was out there, might be available in trade. He comes out and says, well, if I'm going somewhere, I want to go to Vegas, and that's it. So, you go back and you re-sign Fabro and you re-sign Ivan Provorov, and you got to pay a little bit more money, a little bit more term for him because you were kind of checking out what was around the neighborhood before you came back and got it done. But that's the nature of the beast, and that's just part of the business. So They're hoping that's going to continue to be fine defensively. Waddell had said he wanted to get a top six winger. He wasn't able to do that. Uh, Yegor Chinikov has said that he wants a trade. He is a top six winger when he's healthy. Hasn't been healthy a lot in his career here. I think that they'll feel a lot better if they can really bridge the gap there and smooth over the bad feelings. And if he comes in healthy and he plays like he plays, there's your top six winger you're looking for. He's already on your roster, and then he's not unhappy about not playing anymore too. So we'll have to see how that works out. The goaltending, they didn't really address it much, with the exception of sending Daniil Tarasov to Florida, which clears the path for Jet Greaves to battle Elvis Merzlikins in camp. Jet was on a one-way contract this year anyway, so you had to figure something was going to give. You weren't going to have those three guys, and Tarasov had obviously fallen out of favor. So there is concern with that position. I'm not going to lie about that. To me, a lot of it is Elvis. How is he going to handle real competition for the first time in a long time for him in training camp? Jet Greaves, the guy that was in net and a really big part of that 6-game winning streak at the end of the year for the Blue Jackets, sometimes the end of the year is hard to gauge because teams are in the playoffs and they're resting guys. But I'm not trying to take away from what he has done in this organization, because he's been really good. But it's a question mark. There's no doubt about it. So I don't know that they feel so great about that position, because they're wondering how it's going to shake out. I think the defense they feel okay with, because it's what they ran with for much of last year. And with the forwards, like I said, to me, Chinikov is a linchpin here between, do you already have a top six guy who's got a great shot and great speed, or do you have to try to appease him by trading him and finding somebody that'll come in and fit?
What do you make of Kirill Marchenko? This is a guy that I have on my board to have a big year this year. Is that kind of the same thought process with you and the rest of the Blue Jackets?
Well, let me tell you, Kirill Marchenko, first year he was in here 2 years ago, he was scoring goals like nobody's business, and he had no assists. And in fact, there were the Cy Young jokes that he was 18-0, didn't wasn't giving the puck to anybody, and finally, I forget how many he had. He had like 19 or 20 before he got an assist or something like that. But then it seemed like last year he was concentrating more. I don't know if that bugged him, that people were saying he didn't get assists, but I thought last year he was passing the puck way too much and trying to give it to somebody else and get the assist instead of getting the goal. Whereas his strength is shooting the puck. So it's very simple. Screw that guy. Shoot the puck. You take your goal. And this year he took it and he put it all together, and he had 30 goals and he had a bunch of assists. And so, to your point, I agree with you. I'm looking for another big year from Kirill Marchenko, because he's got the right attitude, he's got the right work ethic. And as I said, if he was bothered after that first year that people might have thought that he was selfish because he didn't have enough assists, then he overcompensated. He's figured it out. His teammates love him. He's a great fit here, and I expect him to have another big year.
Looking at this Blue Jackets blue line, Bob, it's obviously one of the stronger ones in the Eastern Conference. Werenski, Fabro, Matejchuk, Provorov, guys like that. But in the system, there's guys like Luca Morelli, Jackson Smith, Stanislav Svozil. What would you say the Blue Jackets blue line is going to look like in a few years? Could it be one of the best in the league?
Oh, again, a lot of that depends on how some of those young guys you just talked about develop, right? And because it still takes time as a blue liner. I mean, guys very seldom, if ever, come straight in from junior and are really big impact guys. It takes them a little bit of time, but yeah, the guys you're talking about, that, as I said, the draft last summer in Vegas was very heavily, after Caden Lindstrom, they very heavily went toward defense and big guys. They do it again with Jackson Smith. I think this blue line could be very big and very solid. And we all know, and by the way, the big guys now, this is everywhere, but the guys that they drafted too, the big guys can move the puck and the big guys can skate. So as you're seeing these teams that are winning the Stanley Cup, everybody's trying to pattern themselves after that. And I think Don Waddell has done a good job to draft players that give them a chance to be in that same vein, because they're good puck movers, good skaters, and they're big bodies. So yeah, I mean, the potential is there, but you never know how guys are going to ultimately pan out.
What are your thoughts on Kent Johnson? Because obviously in the past couple of seasons, He's been up and down, but I think Johnson is a really good prospect. What are your thoughts?
He is, and last year he had a breakout year. There's no doubt about that. I think he's, as you would expect, he has learned a lot. Look, he's a smaller guy, and he can get pushed around. And I think late in the season, when they were really trying to make the playoffs, that you got into playoff style hockey, and I think he did get pushed around a little bit more. I thought throughout most of the season, he avoided that, for lack of a better term, or he handled it really well. And then when the intensity turned up, I think he got pushed around a little bit more. And that's not a knock on him, because he's got to learn to play through that stuff. And he has in his career. And I think that what happened in the last month of the season is going to be very good for him. And just the acknowledgement that, okay, there is another level to this. So I've got to turn it up another level too. But he's so dynamic. He can do so many things with the puck that other guys can't do. He's very fun to watch, and he can score a goal. He's a threat to score a goal every shift that he's on the ice. And he might do it off the forehand, he might do it off the backhand, he might do it off the spinorama. You never know what he's going to do with the puck. And his chemistry with Adam Fantilli is pretty good too. So, and that's only going to get better. So, yeah, I think he's just going to continue climbing. Kent Johnson will, because he's a rink rat. He loves the game, and he studies and he concentrates, and he wants to be better. He doesn't think that he's even close to having this thing figured out.
What about you just touched on him for a second there, Adam Fantilli? I mean, that's a guy that I've loved watching him since Michigan. What's it like, kind of getting a bird's eye view of him and getting to watch him day in and day out?
But I'll tell you something. Watching him day in and day out last season was it was an experience. And when I say that, he really struggled or didn't score goals early in the year. Um, But what he did is he learned how to play defense, and they stressed that a lot with him. And he was acting as, a third line centerman, and and he wasn't getting the goals. And I'm sure it was very frustrating for him, because he knows he's a scorer. He has been a scorer wherever he's played, and he didn't complain about it. He didn't gripe about it. He just went and he kept on doing his job. And then when Sean Monahan got injured, he got promoted from the third line to the first line, and that is when it just clicked for him. And I don't know if it's fair to say that he realized this, but I realized it from watching him play, that all of that time that he put into his defense and getting better defensively in the early part of the year, it paid off, because since he was playing that defensive game, he found himself benefiting from more turnovers, benefiting from more situations where all of a sudden, he's coming out of the defensive zone with the puck, and he's able to make plays happen. And he really refined his game. And just the other day, I was going back and I was listening again to the outdoor game that was played on March the 1st. And I think the empty netter that he got in that game was his 18th of the year. That was on March the 1st. And he finished with 30. So, I mean, he was on quite a roll throughout the final, month and a half of the season there. So, uh, and he'll just look to pick it up. That's another guy too, where he's very confident in his abilities. And there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, but Adam's there. I mean, he believes in himself. He knows what he can do, and now he's shown himself what he can do. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of pressure put on him by him to get back to that 30 goal plateau once again this year.
What does a veteran like Sean Monahan do for that room?
Oh, he just he changed it. He changed it a lot. First of all, the situation with the Johnny Gaudreau passing last year was, that was the season for the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's what was talked about every time you talked about the Blue Jackets. They were able to take tragedy and put the positive spin on it of playing for Johnny and having the season that they did and all of that. So this year, it's going to be different from that regard, no doubt about it. But when Sean Monahan came in here as one of Johnny Gaudreau's best friends, and he felt the impact of his death more than anybody else, and the way that he handled it and the way that he carried himself, and the things he was asked to do, like go out with Meredith Gaudreau for the banner raising on opening night, and then going to Calgary, and he had played there with Johnny as well, and had to be a part of that ceremony. I mean, he got put into a lot of situations outside of hockey that were just tough situations, and very emotional, and could be very hard to deal with. But never affected the way that he played, never affected the way that he carried himself. He became an instant leader. Of course, he's a veteran guy, and but he's a quiet guy, but he knows when to speak. And he really was a big help to guys like Adam Fantilli. Fantilli talked all year about watching Monahan and the way he played at even strength, the way he played on the power play, just watching him know where he needed to be on the ice in certain situations. Adam learned from all of that, and he was certainly a glue guy that brought everything together last year. And you come out of the summer signing him to a 5-year contract, and he's a guy that's had a history of injury problems, and pundits and critics are saying, well, is this a good signing? And look, even if it lasted just that 1 year, for everything this team went through and for what Sean Monahan brought to the table to help them get through all that, it would have been worth every bit of it. But 4 more years of this guy, and he's going to continue to help this team get better.
What is the season expectation for the Blue Jackets this year?
Well, the expectation is to make the playoffs. And it's funny because I'm sure every fan thinks that. The mindset will be, last year you just come off a terrible season. You were drafting 4th overall in the draft, and then your best player gets tragically killed before training camp starts. The expectations were absolute zero. If this team would have finished dead last in the National Hockey League, not just the fans in Columbus, but fans of hockey all over the world would have said, not a surprise, too much to go through. How could you possibly handle all of that? Well, what happens is they almost make the playoffs. They come up 2 points shy. So now the expectations are, well, if you did that, you got to be in the playoffs this year. There's no doubt. And that's the way you got to look at it, even from the team standpoint. But let's also be realists here too, where sometimes teams go on a run like that, an unexpected run when there are no expectations. They come back the next year, there are much bigger expectations, and sometimes they stumble and they take a step back before the next season when they spring ahead. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm going to say, as a fan, it's easy to just think, no doubt, playoffs. But in reality, there are going to be different challenges this year, and there's going to be different pressure this year. But that being said, I do think it's a group that can get it done and can be a part of that playoff picture when the end of the season comes.
Bob, can you kind of take us through a game day routine as if you were going to call a game at Nationwide?
At Nationwide, yeah, get up in the morning and get in there for the skate. Get in there around 10 o'clock, just before 10 o'clock in the morning, and make sure that your coffee's full, because you have to have a coffee in one hand while you talk to everybody, right? That's part of the morning skate. If you're without a coffee, it's like you're naked in there, for crying out loud, because we're all dragging in there at the last minute. Don't want to be awake, not awake, but just don't want to be at work because we have to come back later. But yeah, you're in there 10 o'clock and talking to people. I mean, there's nothing like talking to the broadcasters and the beat writers from the other team, because that's where you get so much information about that team. You read up on it, of course, before they get to town, and you know what's going on, but you get the real nuts and bolts from those guys when they come in. And it's also good to catch up with friends. And some of these guys you see one time a year or 2 times a year, once at their place, once at your place. So it's fun to catch up. And that's what you do in the morning. When that's done, I'll go through the interviews that I got, and cut up sound bites that I'm going to need for my pregame show that night, and get that all sent into the producer for my games. So come back home, read up, look over stats and all that kind of stuff, have something to eat. I On the road, I'll take a nap. At home, I very seldom get to take a nap, as it turns out. But then back to the rink around, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, and right to the media room and have the media dinner, which is again another gathering place with friends, whether it's the people that work in the front office on the staff, or the scouts that are coming in, or the personnel from the other teams. And you get done with that, get up to the press box and get everything situated. And before you know it, the warm-ups are going on, and it's time to make sure check the lines. If you're worried about, hey, is this guy really going to play tonight, or is this guy going to skate in this spot? Sometimes a coach is vague in the morning. They don't want to tell you exactly what's going on, even though they don't want to tell you. So you just confirm it there, and then it's off to the game, ready to go.
Are there any jerseys that are kind of hard to see with the numbers? I know some jerseys have like black font on black jerseys, like anything like that going on up there?
That damn Dallas Stars black jersey with the neon green is awful. just awful to call from the press box in Dallas, which is very high and very far away. Not to sound like an old curmudgeon, but that one's the toughest one. When you bring that question up, that one jumps right out. And I I think they've worn that at home the last 2 years that we played there. So it's you did a lot of peeking at the scoreboard to watch the video in that game.
Definitely. What's the most unique press box around the league that you've been to?
Oh, the most unique press. Well, that's a good question. Nobody's asked me that question. Um, I think one of the most unique is probably in Vancouver because you're not in the press box. There's a broadcast gondola where it's just the radio and TV guys, and you hang right out over the stand, so it's nice. So you're kind of on top of the ice there, but you're not connected with everybody else. Like normally at home, the intermission comes, you can go out and you can talk with writers and you can talk with scouts and all that stuff. But in Vancouver, all you're going to talk to is the other guys doing the same job you are because that's the only ones in there. But so that one's unique from that standpoint. So many of these new buildings, they build all the press boxes the same, and they've got, and I don't know why they've done this because I think it's stupid, but it's just me. They have the writers lower in front, and then they have us up above the writers, so you're looking over the writers to call the game. And then when they decide to stand up and talk to each other while the play's going on, they're blocking your view of the game that's happening in front of you. And and sometimes there's scouts down there, and they can hear what you're saying. So if you want to send a message, you speak up, and if you want to criticize, you lower your voice a little bit. But a lot of the press boxes in this day and age seem like they're becoming very much the same. I mean, Montreal is great because it's that gondola that hangs out over the ice there, and you're literally looking right down on top of it. So that's a unique one too.
Colton, you write for the Kamloops Blazers. I hope you're not doing any of that when you're writing in there.
No, I don't stand. I sit. I'm good. Don't worry.
It's probably more scouts than media guys, but there's
Yeah.
nothing like when there's a rush coming down the ice and you're watching the puck and you're focused on it, and all of a sudden somebody's head pops up right in front of you, and you're like, oh, now you're trying to look around this, and you don't want to just yell, sit down, get out of the way. Well, you can't. You're live, so but it does happen for sure.
What's one of your favorite calls you've had on air? You've done the 5 overtime thriller, Nick Foligno's overtime goal. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could go through, but what is one of your favorites? One that kind of still gives you like chills every time you think about it?
Well, the biggest thing that's ever happened here is that 4-game sweep of Tampa in the playoffs back
Yeah.
in 2019 now. And when the Blue Jackets get what turned out to be the first empty netter in that fourth game, because I think they scored 3, because Tampa was desperate and trying to do whatever they could. But when they scored the first empty netter and the game was pretty much sealed, that was definitely a special moment, because here's a team that, quite frankly, barely made the playoffs. Did a lot at the trade deadline and almost had it all blow up, squeak in, and then get to go head to head with a team that had just, tied a record for most regular seasons wins in history, or whatever the Tampa Bay Lightning had done at the time. Like, they were a machine and they were rolling, and it was almost like, well, it's nice to be in the playoffs, but what's this going to last, 4 games? Yeah, it did, but not the way I thought it was going to end, right? So, that was a really special one. I'll be honest with you, that outdoor game in March at Ohio Stadium when Justin Danforth powered through and scored the goal that wound up being the game winner after the Red Wings had come back and tied the game. And that one was special for a couple of reasons, because it had real big playoff implications, right? You needed to win that game. You had a chance to take 2 from Detroit and separate yourself a little bit in the wild card standings. And the fact that there was 95,000 people in a football stadium, and in a football stadium that routinely has 100,000 people in it on a weekend in the fall, but to have it to watch hockey, to have that many people in there to watch hockey, and it was an event, and it was so special because it was for one day, all of the Ohio State tradition, all of the Blue Jackets tradition just came together, and it worked out perfectly. And when Justin Danforth fought to get that puck into the net and break the tie and give the Blue Jackets the real chance to win that game, That was a really special one. That's one I won't forget for a long time, quite honestly.
What's it like when the cannon goes off? I bet you if you're new to Nationwide, it probably spooks you a little bit, right?
It does, and that's why I like to watch the people that are new, because they get surprised, right? Especially we used to have the Montreal French broadcast used to come in and sit in the booth next to us, and the cannon goes off after goals, but it also goes off when the team comes out onto the ice before the start of the first period. So in your mind, you're thinking, well, after goals, this is going to go off. But if you don't know, or if you have forgotten that it goes off when the team comes out on the ice, it'll catch you by surprise. And I used to love, I would purposely stop whatever I was doing to look to my right and watch to see how high these guys would jump out of their chairs when that thing would go off. So yeah, it's funny. I like it. I know when it's going to happen. But to be honest with you, so this cannon, it's down on at the top of the upper bowl, or at the top of the lower bowl rather. But the charges are actually in the ceiling above the press box. So it's far louder in the press box than it is down in the stands when that goes off, which makes it even worse for people that aren't expecting it to happen.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't imagine what it would be like having a cannon going off right beside myself when I'm trying to do like an open for a broadcast or something. No.
I wouldn't warn you either. I would just watch.
Hey, Bob, last question from me. What is your favorite Columbus Blue Jackets jersey?
Favorite Columbus Blue Jackets jersey? Whoa. Well, I don't mind our jerseys, the ones our primaries right now, but I'm just going to say this because I've complained about it so many times. Anybody that knows me sees this. If I don't bring this up, they're going to say, "Well, you're a hypocrite because you didn't say what you're always complaining about." I love the old font, the original font of numbers and names. I liked far better than the newer font. When they changed to when we got the third jerseys, they changed to a different font on those, and then when the switch, I think it's when the switch came to Adidas, they changed the font for all of them. And some of the numbers are hard to distinguish sometimes. Thankfully, it's your team, so you have a good idea who's out there. But I like the old font. I like the primary jersey that we have right now, but I like it with the old style numbers and names that we used to have, because those numbers show up far better. Remember a couple of years ago we did the there was it the reverse retro? We had a red one that had the old logo on it.
Yeah.
And not that I was like gung ho about having the red jersey or anything like that, but I did like the fact they used the old font. So I like those because they had the old font. See, these are kind of things that go through my mind and I think of and I pick apart. Like it means nothing to anybody, but you asked.
Do you have a favorite jersey that's not Columbus?
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I have a 23-year-old son who, if you asked him that question, there'd probably be about a list of 6 things that he would go through, and I like this and that. And I'm not as in tune with that, I guess would be uh, a way to put it. So no, not really. And I guess I've gone through the stage of getting jerseys and wearing jerseys whenever I'm, you know, just hanging out. So no, I know that's a boring answer for you guys. Don't want to ruin your
Wow.
show with it, but it's just true.
No, that's good. It's a respectable and honest answer. I love it. Hey, Bob, thanks so much for giving us your time today. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Hey, it's good to talk to you guys too. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
Well, Colton, great episode there with Bob. Got to talk a lot about the Columbus Blue Jackets. Figured out a lot of stuff going forward with them. Some of their prospects as well. How'd you like that one? That was a good one with Bob.
That was awesome. Yeah, well, fantastic stuff. I really enjoyed that one. I love that we can talk to broadcasters who also like kind of can joke around about what goes on up there. Because in the press box, like I don't think a lot of people realize what happens in a press box, and like it's chaos up there. Even for the Blazers, it is chaos, man. Like there's scouts, there's people, there's like rink staff all walking around like behind you. It's nuts. I'll have to do a video for the Patreon one day and show you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can agree. It definitely was obviously to a much smaller scale when I was at U of T, but it's not just you. It's two people usually, or at least for me, it was the color person and the play-by-play guy calling the game. A tiny little wall in between you guys, and then on the other side you have all of the game ops crew running the scoreboard, running the PA announcement throughout the rinks, running the stats. Like the press boxes are almost like a zoo, I would say, Colton. I think you would agree.
Yeah. Absolutely, they are. We have a couple things we want to get to while we just wait for Mike Gould to come aboard here. Mike Gould from Flames Nation is going to come aboard. We're going to talk about Calgary Flames with him. But one thing I wanted to talk about was Anthony DeMarco from Daily Faceoff, friend of the show. He had a mailbag go out, what was it, 2 days ago? And talked about Connor Zary, good Lord. You'd think I'd know how to pronounce the former Blazers last name. So anyways, Zary is reportedly, via Anthony DeMarco, the Flames are looking for a 3-year deal in the $3 million to $3.5 million AAV range. So that's interesting because Zary's camp wants over 4 from what he reported in that same article. Obviously, this will be a conversation we have here with Mike, but man, just pay the kid. That is all I have to say.
Yeah, if anyone's watching and they go tune into an old Game Day Tarps podcast episode, you'll see in the corner of Dakota's room he has 4 Connor Zary jerseys, and 3 of them have the wrong number on them. So that's a funny one. He's a big Calgary guy, big Zary guy. He'd love to be in on this one. But yeah, I definitely think that's a good number there for Zary. He deserves it, and he's definitely played himself up the past couple of seasons in my mind.
Absolutely. He's a guy that can, just flat out play in the top 6, I think, right? Like just pay the guy, let him play, and he's going to be fantastic. He's going to be a 70, 80 point guy for you consistently, but you just got to pay him first. Come on. What is Conroy doing?
Definitely. Something that I saw on Twitter, it's kind of a funny one. I was scrolling down and it was on a Montreal Canadiens like meme page or something. And I popped up. I'll pop it up and show you the boys. Jakub Dobish. He must have needed a couple extra dollars or a free mattress because he went and posted this on his Instagram and then got absolutely roasted in the comments by Patrick Laine, Arbor Xhekaj, and I would assume the rest of the roster down there in those replies. So yeah, that's a funny one there. Definitely a guy just searching for a couple extra bucks or a free new mattress, Got to do what you got to do.
That's pretty funny though. Like you got to do what you got to do. You got to do ads sometimes. Those NHL guys sometimes need to get paid extra, man. It's not like the NFL or the NBA where you get paid hundreds of millions.
Yeah, that's crazy. The first time I saw like a football quarterback contract, like Patrick Mahomes' most recent contract was wild when he signed that. It blew my mind. I was like, why do they need that much in the first place? Why? Why do you need that?
Well, it's like NIL money. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's like NIL money, right? Like you look at how much NIL money is in football. Like there was a thing that went on the other day where people were talking about how Archie Manning is going to like the younger Manning kid. Plays for Texas. He's their quarterback. He's going to play another year in the NCAA for Texas after this year, not declare for the NFL draft and play another season. And people are like, well, he makes $7.5 million a year to play for Texas. Why would he go to the NFL right now? Like,
yeah. And I mean, if you can go chase a chip, why not? $7.5 million. How old is he? Like, is he not like 19 probably?
Yeah. Probably, but like you can think about how like even other guys think about what Gavin McKenna got, what Porter Martone got, what the prices were paid by these schools to even get these hockey talents into their programs. But man, NIL money kind of goes crazy.
but it's pocket change compared to like Gavin McKenna, the upwards to 700K compared to Arch Manning's 7.5 mil. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely still a little bit different, but it's still crazy to think how much money's flying around there.
Ridiculous. One more thing I just wanted to quickly get to here before we bring Mike aboard. I saw on the Daily Faceoff page that the Stanley Cup betting odds were up, and they had a post where it was the Montreal Canadiens were worth a look at 55-1. What do you make of that, Dayton? You're the Montreal fan.
I don't know if I'd put the Habs anywhere near Stanley Cup contention right now. The second line center spot hasn't really been solidified yet.
That's why I kind of laughed at it. But
Yeah.
I mean, plus 5,500 to win the Stanley Cup. Like, what in the world?
I wouldn't touch that. If you're betting, I wouldn't touch that.
No, it's free. You may as well just burn all your money, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I believe we have Mike ready in the backstage, so we can bring him aboard and talk some Flames.
Sweet. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
I'm sitting in
Mike,
my car.
That's okay, man. That's okay. Let's chat about some Flames prospects. Cole Reshny. What do you make of Cole Reshny, and are you excited to see him go to UND this year?
Yeah, it's a great move for him. It's going to be. He's a guy who everybody's sort of wondering about as a World Junior prospect. I think the stocks on that are a lot higher than they were 2 weeks ago, especially if various guys aren't available. The one people have been talking about is Jet Lachenko, if maybe he makes the Flyers. Maybe Reshny is able to play center for Canada at the World Juniors. Regardless, North Dakota, yeah, just a fantastic landing spot for him. He's going to go up against Cullen Potter a couple times, which is going to be fun. I'm hoping to make my way down to see that in action because it's exciting. He's the first center the Flames have drafted in the first round since Connor Zary, and I think there's a lot of optimism that he can be an even better player.
Well, you just touched on it, Cullen Potter. What do you make of him?
Well, we did our Flames Nation live show on the night of the draft, and it took me by surprise that they drafted Cullen Potter at 32. It just wasn't a player who I figured would be on their radar. Not to say that I was disappointed in the pick. I just find it to be very fascinating. I mean, we talk about guys who go to certain schools. ASU has a very small track record of guys who have turned into NHLers, but you look at Josh Doan, who was the last one. He's turned into a pretty good player. And ASU is now a conference team, which really changes the outlook a little bit. So the other aspect of it, of course, is that Potter went to ASU at age 17. Not a lot of guys do that. And the guys who do are typically pretty good. I mean, the more recent examples are obvious. You go back 20 years, you're looking at guys like Mike Camilleri. It's pretty good. It's pretty good company. So it's exciting. It is going to be a guy who will probably play in a very similar role for Team USA as Reshny will for Canada. And they're going to go head-to-head more than once this year for sure.
Yeah, Potter put up 8 points in 7 games at the U18s, and I guess he kind of just answered the question. Do you think he'd play a big role for USA at the World Juniors?
It's tough to say. I mean, most of the projections have him, I think, slotting in as their number 3. As their number 3 center, just because, you know, he's a little bit younger than various other guys or a little less proven. James Hagens, everybody expects to play above him. There's a bit of a collegiate connection with a guy like Teddy Stiga, who's a year older, who might play above him. And so I think with Potter, it's going to be all about auditioning for future World Juniors as well. I think what we'll see from him this year is going to be just a showcase for a year to come. So I think he'll be a featured player. I think he'll feature on the power play. I think he'll be asked to do a lot, but I don't know if he's going to be the superstar at the World Juniors that, you know, a guy like, you know, we're talking about a guy like Johnny 10 years ago. Well, it took him until his D+2, and then he was the guy at the World Juniors. And I think that might be in the cards for Cullen, not 6 months from now, but a year and 6 months from now.
What about Theo Stock-Elias? Hell of a name. What do you make of him?
Well, you know what? It was very fitting that the Flames used their first 3 picks this year on centers. And the first 2 that they picked are both 5'10" guys, and then Stock-Elias is 6'3", and that's certainly a different element. I think he was playing in the same league as a guy like William Stromgren was in his development time, and he was more productive in his draft year than Stromgren was in his +1 year. So comparing, second round picks there, and then adding in the fact that Stock-Elias is a center instead of a winger, it's pretty good. Another guy who I'm expecting to see at the World Juniors, or at least be in competition for a spot at the World Juniors. The Flames certainly, fans knew that they had areas to address. Center was a big one, and it appears they knew that as well, because they went all out on it.
The big one on the table, I'm gonna guess everyone has talked about it. Zane Parekh. What do you think the Flames are going to do with Parekh this season?
Well, he's going to start in the NHL. I don't think anybody has any doubts about that. And I would be really surprised to see him go anywhere but. I don't think Saginaw really has anything to offer him at this point. Had the revelations about the NCAA come out a little earlier, I think he would have gone to college. But I think where he's at right now, he's going to be good enough to stick. I think they're going to put him on a pairing with Kevin Ball to start things off, and just sort of let him fly out there and let Ball sort of sit back. I expect him to stay with the Flames for most of the year. I think if he has not firmly established himself as a top 6 everyday guy for them by Christmas, I think he'll go to the World Juniors. But it is certainly up in the air, even more so than a guy like Michael Misa. I think it's going to be one of the big stories the first half of the season is how, to what extent is Parekh an NHL caliber defenseman. If they're finding he's only looking comfortable on the power play, which I do expect him to anchor the number 1 power play unit from pretty early on. I think then at that point, it also depends on where the Flames are at. If the Flames are, completely sinking out of the gate, then I think he'll go to the World Juniors. If they're competitive out of the gate, well, then it becomes a bit more of a tough equation. And there's just so many variables at play. I do think Parekh has the skill set to be as effective early on in his career as, I don't want to compare to Makar and Hughes, because those guys were just so dynamic right from out of the gate. But I look at the learning curve that guys like Thomas Harley had coming into the NHL and Evan Bouchard had coming into the NHL. And I think Parekh has all the attributes to follow similar developmental pathways as those guys.
I'd said it before on this show that I think you deploy Parekh in like similar way that Montreal deployed Hudson, and you just let him go do what he's good at, and you'll get the results that you want out of him. But how do you want the Flames to deploy him?
I think I don't think it's going to take long for him to be a top 4 guy. I remember when a guy like Oliver Shillington was coming into the league, and they put him on a pairing with Chris Tanev pretty shortly after he made the jump. Now with Shillington, things went off the tracks for other reasons, but with Parekh, the offensive upside is more so than the Flames have had pretty much in any defensive prospect since Al McInnes. Even a guy like Dion Phaneuf, the offense only really manifested itself once he got to the NHL. It took, it wasn't expected. With Parekh, we can all see it. 107 points. It's if you're not putting this guy into an offensive situation right away, you're not doing it right. So again, I would be shocked if he's not anchoring the number 1 power play unit. Once they, whether they do it with, another defenseman there or not is, debatable. I could see them putting both Parekh and Weegar on the top unit to start things off, considering that both of them are pretty good offensively. Ultimately, though, I think he's going to be the guy back there. They're not going to let him defer to anybody else. It's going to be him. I think the optimal number 1 power play for the Flames this year is Coronado, Huberdeau, Kadri, Parekh, and maybe Morgan Frost or Connor Zary, but he'll be the focal point. And he already looked like the focal point on that number 1 power play in the season finale. So that's the way that they'll want to do it, I think.
Now let's look at this upcoming season and kind of the moves that were made in the offseason. Matt Coronado, that's probably the biggest one. His signing, how important is that for the Flames?
It's huge. I mean, the thing with Coronado is I think he is extremely close to being a bona fide first line caliber forward. I have said in the past that I don't know whether the Flames have any true star potential forwards in the system. Coronado is the guy who I think has the best chance of proving me dead wrong on that. I think he is not as far off from guys like Matt Nyes and Dylan Gunther and players of that caliber as folks might make it seem. It was a very reasonable bet getting that player locked up for as long as they did. I think with Coronado now, I mean, he came into last season sort of as the number 3 or number 4 shooting threat on this team. You could say that there were numerous players ahead of him on the depth chart. He eventually supplanted Yegor Sharangovich on the number 1 power play unit. He was a huge fixture for the team down the stretch. And my expectations for him this year are to score 30 goals. I think that should be where the Flames are at. That should be where the contract, the expectations that come along with it. If that doesn't happen, I mean, either it's because of poor luck or poor play, because for my money, that should be the expectation.
What about Matthew Coronado's release? What makes that so deadly? And I know people get to see it on TV, but how is it in person? Because people say he's got one of the best in the league.
Yeah, it really is something. I think with Coronado, though, he can really shoot the puck, no doubt about it. I do think, though, that his craftiness as a finisher gets a little bit underrated in the sense that he scores more goals from up close than you might think. In some ways, he reminds me a little bit of Andrew Mangiapane in that way, where he just sort of is able to find soft areas instead of just hammering the puck all the time, which he can do. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know if it's necessarily as much of a hallmark for him as it would have been with, say, a guy like Camilleri, who was just a one-time threat from everywhere. With Coronado, he's got a great release. Don't get me wrong. It's just I think he has a bit more diversity in his attack, which is part of what makes him so interesting. The other aspect is he really improved his skating, which I thought was by far his biggest weakness going into last season. It was a real poor aspect of his game. And I think he has done a commendable job of getting it up to an NHL caliber level, to the point where he's able to escape coverage and able to get into the dirty areas. He was always just a half step behind that before, and it has been a real nice change of pace to see him be able to get into those areas more easily.
Hey, Mike, what do you make of Rasmus Anderson, and do you think he's going to get traded?
Well, I think he'll get traded. It's just a matter of when he gets traded. He is entering the last season of his contract. I don't think there's really any urgency from the Flames side to try and sign him, given what they already have. They've got a number of different righties in their system already. I mean, I don't think there's been a whole lot of movement on that since the draft, when I think there were things that were close. I think those things have largely gone away. And I think a big part of that is Rasmus himself, not necessarily being super eager to go to various teams, even though he's got only a modified no trade clause. He's able to exert a lot of power there. And so I do think the list of teams that has been reported, or the lack of a list, so as it were, people are talking about Vegas as being the only destination. That's not true. There are other teams that are very interested in Rasmus. There are other teams that he would be interested in going to. I think Dallas is a team that would have a lot of mutual interest there. But I just don't know. There seems to be a lot of holdups, and I think it might be something that has to get into the season to really start moving again.
What is the expectation of the Flames this year?
The expectation of the Flames, well, nobody seems to really know. Because the last 2 years have been so discreet in that sense, where they have gone into them with similar expectations and come out with wildly different results. And so, the main goal for the Flames, or at least the main view of the Flames heading into last year, was that they were going to finish last. It was that they were going to finish in the bottom 5 of the league, and they obviously didn't. And the fact that they have Dustin Wolf now sort of changes the equation because he is behind a relatively competent defense. You could argue that a guy like Lukas Dostal in Anaheim is of a similar caliber as a goaltender, but he's behind one of the most porous defenses in the league. And so, maybe similar goalies, but Dostal ends up with like a 902 save percentage. Wolf ends up at like a 911. And all of a sudden, you have wildly different outcomes in terms of team strength. Now, I do think the Flames overachieved in certain instances last year, but they also underachieved greatly offensively. I mean, they only had 3 guys score 20 goals in Huberdeau, Kadri, and Coronado. 3 guys score 20. I mean, that's crazy. Guys like Sharangovich, who scored 17, Frost, who I think finished around 14, Farabee, who finished around 12, Zary, who was hurt and ended up finishing around 12. I mean, guys just weren't scoring goals. They scored an extremely small number of goals. Their total team shooting percentage was, I think, last in the league. So, there's areas where I think they'll improve, areas where I think they'll regress, and I think in the aggregate they might end up finishing around the same. So that would be sort of my expectation, but then again, my expectations last year were wrong, so they might be wrong again this year.
Mike, is there any talks? Oh, sorry, Colton. Is there any talks though, Mike, around the new Saddle Dome or the new arena that's going to replace the Saddle Dome here in 2027?
Any talks in what sense?
On the new arena that's going to take place and replace the Saddle Dome.
Yeah, it's happening. So it broke ground a year ago. It will be. They've laid most of the foundation. There's a huge retaining wall that's gone in, just because they're building the structure partially inset in the ground, and so what we're seeing is just a ton of work that's sort of happened just to set the foundation essentially. And what we saw in Edmonton when their arena went up 10 years ago was that was the part that took the longest. And once the building actually started to go up, it came together pretty fast. And so, I mean, my colleague Ryan Pike is more of a source on this. As far as I know, the arena is supposed to take 2 more years to build. Where we're at right now, I would expect probably maybe a few months away from things to start building up. But it's happening. It's no longer a theoretical or an abstract as it once was. The money's all been allocated. The resources, as far as I know, have been sourced. The construction is happening, and so folks have basically put the timeline as far as the Flames' competitive trajectory is concerned. Is that okay? By the time the arena opens, which again is supposed to be in 2 years, the expectation or the hope is that the team is starting to round into form.
Now, to bounce off that, what do you think the most electric moment at the Saddle Dome has been?
It's a good question. Probably the Flames. Well, hard to say. Let's see here. I mean, maybe them winning. I think they won Game 4 of the 04 Cup Finals there because they lost Game 6 in overtime. I mean, the thing is, there hasn't been a whole lot. They won the Cup in Montreal, so they didn't win it in Calgary. They made the West Final in 1981, but that was at the Corral, so it wasn't at Saddle Dome. I mean, they maybe what I think it would be is beating Detroit in 2004 in round 2. That would probably be it because it was Game 6. So it was at home. The Flames didn't have home ice in any series that year. And it was Jelena in overtime. That would probably be it by default. Or the Gaudreau goal against Dallas. That would be, but there haven't been a whole lot of deep playoff runs at the Saddle Dome. That's been the thing, is that, they win the Cup in 89. Prior to that, they had made it to the Cup final in 86. But after 89, they didn't win a round again for 15 years. And then after 04, they didn't win a round again for 11 years. So, there's only so much that you can really put in there beyond the default answers.
Yeah, safe to say Flames fans might want an electric moment coming up in the next couple seasons.
Yeah, you could say that for sure.
Hey, Mike, last one for me. What's your favorite Flames jersey?
Wow, great question. There's they all have their own ups and downs for me. I think the current set that they have is very strong with the home and aways and the alternate. I would love to see a revival of the jerseys they wore in 04, which they only wore for 3 seasons before changing them up needlessly to bring in the inclusion of the Alberta flag on the shoulder, which was horrible. It was blue and it didn't match anything at all. Those ones were great. They had the black C, they had the black striping at the bottom. They were really good. Yeah, that would pretty much be it. But I appreciate all of them in their own ways. I think they all have interesting elements. I don't think the Flames have ever worn a uniform, aside from the ones with the flags on them, which were truly terrible, that I would describe as having no redeeming qualities. They all have their ups and downs.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Mike, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Cheers.
Well, Colton, another great episode today. Got some Blue Jackets talk in, some Flames talk in. It was definitely a fun one. A great way to wrap up the week. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah, that was fun. That was good. Great stuff from both Bob and Mike. You guys can all go check out Mike Gould's work over at flamesnation.ca and at dailyfaceoff.com. But yeah, I think that does it for us, man. We're an hour and 6 minutes into this show. It's pretty good.
Yeah. What do you got cooking up for the weekend?
Hot night in the city and Rib Fest.
Oh, yeah, you told me that yesterday. Rib Fest.
Yeah. So everybody brings up, so like hot night in the city is everyone brings out like their old cars and like cool cars that they've got and old trucks and lifted trucks and whatever you got. And you bring them all downtown and you can park them all downtown and everybody walks around, takes pictures. There's Lamborghinis. There's like 67 Chevelles. There's fucking everything you can think of there. It's so sick.
Nice. I love a little car show.
Yeah. And then the Kamloops Blazers are doing their alumni golf tournament this weekend. So I have a couple interviews I'm doing with some alumni guys, and that's about my weekend.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Riley, one of the other guys at Game Day Tires, put in the group chat this morning. He said Stank and a couple of the other boys are over at Stank's house having like a crazy time. They're making a bunch of noise, just like a bunch of goofballs. And I was like, yeah, boys will be boys.
True.
But just one thing I wanted to shout out before we go. If you're able to, fellas, head over to the Fight Network tonight, 9:30 to 11 tonight Atlantic time, so 8:30 to 10 Eastern time. I'm making my TV debut, so go check that out if you ever so please. The Dogger Pass podcast on the Fight Network. So thanks, fellas. But yeah, Colton, I think that does it for us.
I think so too. Everybody go check out our YouTube, check out our Patreon, do all of that. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and keep an eye on our socials. We'll probably release some stuff this weekend for guests that are coming up next week. And I'm going to stop telling people who the hell we're having on now, because every time I do this, it just falls through. Like we were going to have Cam Jansen on today, and then Cam messaged me yesterday and was like, oh, can we move it? And I was like, oh, all right. This is why I'm not going to start talking anymore. So you guys don't get to know who's coming on next week, but there's some fun players and some fun people.
Definitely. Well, everyone, we thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend. Happy Friday. And we'll see you back here Monday. Again, I'm cutting through the intro again because of these friggin' flies, Colton. I'm gonna kill them. I'm prepared today. 11 a.m. on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern, right back here on GDT Live. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.